This video is how to grape sample. This is a block. There's 36 rows, and it goes from the bottom of the hill to the top of the hill. And the top of the hill has slightly longer rows, and then the bottom of the hill has slightly shorter rows over on this side. Generally, if there's 36 rows, I might, go up and down, back and forth, like maybe towards when it's less. We're still just trying to get a picture and we're not sure if it's like 18, 19, 20 bricks, then I might just do down one row, back one row, down one row, back one row, but I'd probably separate those rows by about like 9 rows so we get a good picture, and then like 8 to 9 rows. And then the other is that if it's closer to harvest, like let's just say it's getting close to 20, 21/8 or 22 bricks, and then I'd really start, maybe doing a 6, going down and back like 3 times, so I hit, 6 rows essentially. When we sample, so for example, you don't want to hit the first 3 rows and the last 3 rows, and that's because there's edge effects around the edge of a vineyard. They get just more sun, more wind, whatever, and so they're not representative of the bulk of the grapes in the center. And so what you want to do is always skip the first 3 rows, and when you walk into a row like this one, you want to skip the first 3 plants. And then for us, we do berry sampling and we do cluster sampling. And when you're doing clusters, then you just walk zigzag from one side of one row to the other, one side. So you'll grab one cluster from here, and then you would walk, a certain amount of steps, your steps, like 5 steps or 7 steps, and then grab another cluster here, and then come to the sun side again and grab another cluster, and grab another cluster into your bucket. And then when you finish and you get to the end and you have 40 clusters, then you just bring back your bucket and you crush it, and we find out what the Brix and pH are. Now on the other hand, if you're doing what we normally do out here in Southern Oregon, it's just far more common for us to berry sample, and that's because people can carry probably only 3 to 4 tons an acre and ripen it successfully down here, so it's just far less profitable. And so down here, instead of cluster sampling, a lot of people berry sample, so they just don't lose as much fruit. So for example, we would skip the first 3 plants in the row, then we would grab a berry from the top or the middle or the bottom of the cluster, and sometimes I grab 2 so I can just fill up my bag a little bit faster. And you do that alternating back and forth, across the row. And at the same time, you want to alternate, between a cluster that is from, the end of the cane, the middle of the cane, or the head of the cane. And the head is usually where, the big plant trunk is at. And then it's cane pruned, so there's one long cane here, and then each shoot goes up and has 2 clusters per shoot. And you have the lower one is always like the first primary cluster, and then the secondary one. And really, there's some examples here where you have like just too many clusters per shoot, and that's like 4, and that's the one that they should drop. Because the bottom 2 clusters are the ones that tend to ripen faster. But if you really see 2 clusters, then those are the ones you want to concentrate on, and just alternate the position of the cluster that you're sampling from all the way across. And that will give you, roughly, if you're filling berries in your Ziploc bag, like let's just say 25% of that came from your sun side and your shade side of this row, and then you came back and you did another 2 rows essentially, and then you went back and it's another 2 rows, and came back and it was another 2 rows. And as long as those alleyways that you go down are fairly separated, then we get a good sense of where it's ripening at within this block. All right, thanks.